episode begins with Seven regenerating, but hearing lots of shouting voices in her head. So much so that she wakes up early. I'd speak to the captain about it, but she'd look at me oddly if I suggested this kind of thing wasn't normal. We can see that something is wrong. Seven's body language is different, moving like a predator that has trapped prey this way and is just looking to find it and make the kill. She finally makes it to the mess hall where she begins throwing food around in disgust, like most of the crew feel like doing when they show up. She finally finds a bowl full of lumps of meat and starts going at it in a way, well, that would fit the Klingon seen in her reflection. Mirrors are always good for showing us occult stuff. Occult stuff and deep space. Which is why I'm always nervous when we put up a new one and point it at a nebula. I'm always worried we're going to create some kind of giant space vampire. After the titles, Harry announces that he saw something while he was on the graveyard shift, and decided this merits telling everybody. Well, are they ever shocked to find out that it's not another signal that he's convinced says he should step out the airlock? No, this time it's something actually important. Fragments that are all that remain of a Borg cube. Finding out what happened would require getting close, but even Janeway recognizes that would be a very bad idea. She intends to give this debris field a wide berth. Let the Borg do the post-mortem on this problem. We've still got to figure out who's raiding the mess hall after all. You know, even Tuvok is having trouble figuring that one out. We need to get some real detective on this. She is on the track of the right suspect, after all. David Livingston, veteran Trek director, does a nice job with this, especially given that this is all shot in a single take, and involves a child actor no less. That's a fairly brave thing to try, especially given that Scarlett Palmer has had only one episode of the show under her belt by then. Seven finally confronts her, so Naomi explains the chain of reasoning that says that if Seven strives for perfection, and she observes Seven, then she could learn to be perfect, and Janeway would give her the position of bridge assistant.
And you hope to achieve this goal by emulating me?
Are you mad?
No. There are many on this crew that would benefit from your example.
Fortunately, humility isn't a requirement for the job. After all, what good has it done Harry? But before the discussion is over, Seven hears the voices, and then all of a sudden becomes extremely playful. In a little kid way, not an erotic way. Brandon Braga did an uncredited rewrite, so I feel the need to make that point clear. While they play Kadascot, a little girl is reflected in Seven's place, who talks about having 12 siblings. I think they were the family from the beginning of Meaning of Life.
I've got something to tell the whole family. Oh, quick, go and get the others in, Gordon.
It's not until Torres tries multiple times to get Seven to come to engineering that Seven snaps out of it, with no memory of coming in here. If that's disconcerting, worse news is a Borg signal, the kind that's used to link the minds of drones. She mentions her mental lapse and wonders aloud if it might have something to do with it, but then Klingon of 9 takes over, in Torres' presence. This gets ugly, even for girl-on-girl fans. This is only going to scratch the itch of maybe the most extreme ends of the bell curve.
What a sweet! Ah!
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most fetishes don't involve the face bite. Seven flees at the sight of security and is contained behind force fields, only for us to find her curled up in worry, saying her name is Meryl. But that doesn't last long. A Vulcan soon takes over. But then old Face Biter is back, and Tuvok needs to finally blast Seven into unconsciousness, presumably before Torres would get the chance. She wakes up in sickbay with, of course, a neck thingy, trying to explain what's wrong. You won't find that one on the symptoms list for WebMD. With a bit of fine-tuning of the neck thingy, the voices are toned down.
They are gone.
All right. Let's see what we can do to keep them from coming back.
A novel experience for me, I can tell you. Seems that some glitch has caused some of the personalities of those who have been assimilated to take over her mind. He describes it as the Borg equivalent of multiple personality disorder, what we might now call dissociative identity disorder, although it's not quite that. These aren't other parts of her own identity. They are others that are being forced upon it. You know, I had no idea I was going for a theme here, and yet The Passenger, I Am Legion, and this. It's all about having someone else running around in your head right now. I wouldn't mind it myself. Have someone else run this circus while I go get some sleep. Leaving the area won't do much good. This is a subspace-based signal, after all. They're going to be in range for a long time. So the only choice is to shut this thing down at the source, whatever it is, and that means heading back to the debris field.
The Collective does not tolerate imperfection. Any drone with a malfunction as serious as mine will be destroyed immediately.
Lucky for you, this crew is a little more tolerant.
Oh, there you are.
Then again, every rose has its thorn. After trying to inflict help on her for a while, Neelix shares a drawing that Naomi did in the hopes that Seven might feel better. So while she files that away, they get down to the more immediate issue of seeing if there's any evidence related to this, and sure enough, lots of times Seven got up in the middle of the night and did odd things, including leaving a log entry for some ensign that was assimilated 13 years ago. That report's a little late. There's more signs of activity, but that's going to have to wait. They found the source of the problem, a Borg vinculum. It's basically the supervisor, keeps the minds working as they're supposed to, on task, and sharing only relevant information. This one's doing the opposite, though. It's sending her contradictory, chaotic instructions. Like we don't get enough of that around here already. Seven is going to need days to examine this thing to figure out how to deal with it, so against her better judgment, Janeway beams it aboard rather than waiting for the Borg to show up while they're sitting here with their tricorders hanging out. So with the vinculum in engineering, they can start poking around its asshole to see what they find. And what they find is a virus, an organic kind, that's attacking the programming. It was assimilated from a shuttle and its occupant a few days ago, from a species that was assimilated to the brink of extinction. The hope is that maybe they might know something about it and about how to help Seven. But if this was intentional, it's going to be a pretty hard selling them on that idea.
I'll give you 20 bars of platinum for it.
I think the inhibitor's gone offline. Would you come here, please?
Be quiet! Can't you see I'm in the middle of a deal?
Although I think we found someone willing to try. Jerry Ryan is handed the rough task of playing multiple people without them turning into just ciphers. But this Ferengi is when she shines. For Ferengi, this is just the right side of over the top, and the comic relief it provides is welcome, and a testament that Jerry Ryan's more than just a pretty face. As the saying goes, after all, death is easy, comedy is hard. After swapping to a mother who was assimilated in an escape pod at Wolf 359, Seven finally emerges, pessimistic about her chances if the neck thingy's maximum setting isn't keeping these alternates in check. Seven can't emotionally handle this for much longer and admits to this weakness in front of Janeway. You can imagine the enormity of that, especially considering that window into her self-image earlier. She's finally sedated because it gets out of control, so they'll need to shut this thing down. This is so serious that it's not Vorik there, not even Harry helping out. It's Tuvok. We need someone responsible in here while we're trying to stop this thing from eating the ship. We need somebody to be the grown-up in the room for once. The procedure starts to work, but this is Borg tech. The same reason you can't just shoot it with a torpedo. It's made to stop your efforts to mess with it. After all, this is one of the central things that make the cube work. It's redundant to the point that even when the ship breaks, it's still working. By the time they're done with their little experiment, not only is the thing still in perfect working order, but Seven's own identity is lost. That really qualifies for a whoops. The doctor says that this is untenable, even just from a medical perspective. But there's no treatment yet that can help. So Tuvok intends to use a mind meld to try to find Seven's identity and draw it out. But tackling this from the other direction would be speaking with the masterminds behind this. And they've been tracked down. But they're extremely annoyed. This was part of a big plan to strike back at the Borg. Similar to the idea with Icheb, except A, these are volunteers instead of just helpless children, and B, this was intended to take out more than one ship. Knowing a Borg would come to investigate the destruction of one of their own, the corrupted vinculum would then take out the next ship and the next in a daisy chain that would wind up probably taking out dozens of ships before the Borg wised up. So they're kind of miffed that Janeway stopped it with just one. And they say they cannot help Seven either. They didn't conceive of this plan with a cure in mind. Kind of like the way your first thought after designing a new missile is not an antidote. They want Janeway to put the vinculum back, and she says she will after she helps Seven. But that's not soon enough for them, and they're prepared to press the issue if she refuses. 13 people have lost their lives to make this weapon. Damn, even I never sacrifice more than a couple when I do that. If you don't put it back, those lives will have been wasted. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I assumed you had more. I'm getting back to work. Next time, pick a better number. I mean, I'm not superstitious, but there's no sense in flaunting it. Meanwhile, the Doctor has recovered Seven's identity for the moment, and she's around the point where she's gone from grief to anger, upset that she can't adapt to this situation and overcome it. There's something in the Doctor's response to this that I've always liked.
Surprise. You aren't invincible.
I don't know why, but it's a line that always stuck with me. The Doctor lays out the mind meld idea while she's still aware so that she can make a more informed decision on it. Before we move on, one small tangent. Apparently, my cracks about Seven's outfit over the years has led some to think that I'm actually covering up for my own embarrassment and my arousal. Oh, let me be clear. I crack jokes because I'm a comedian. She looks ridiculous. Do the math. But to be clear, no, I am not complaining that the cinematographer has made sure that Seven's heaving boob is kept in frame during this discussion. I just wouldn't normally have mentioned it because, well, I do have at least a tiny amount of tact. But we are only one more episode away from the end, so like Tuvok doing a small dance upon Neelix's departure, I'll salute the character that helped revitalize the show, as well as what certainly didn't hurt the ratings. With the aliens starting their attack, it's the perfect time for the meld. The Doctor gives Tuvok his own neck thingy now, because when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So Tuvok heads in there, and wow, the place is crowded. It's like a very handsy nightclub. He has to eventually toss that horny Klingon off a ledge into an abyss. But the other personalities seem to have the same idea with Seven, and it's only thanks to the shutdown of the vinculum in time that she manages to avoid that plunge. But that sorts that out. The vinculum gets dropped off so that it can attract more Borg. Seven makes a full recovery, and she heads to Naomi to give her work to help with her goal of becoming bridge assistant, in return for teaching her about things like Kadaskat. The end. Post-episode follow-up, stupid Neelix moment is inflicting help. Nothing more needs to be said. We have an I Am Legion award for Seven being filled with thousands of other minds. If that doesn't qualify for this, then I don't know what does. Final score for Infinite Regress is 7 out of 10. Come for the 7 of 9 drama, and try to ignore the false peril of the final act. Jerry Ryan does a fine job with the task that she's given, and the direction on the episode's great. But the technobabble of the mechanism and the needless final act pile-on do nothing but distract from where the strength of the episode is. The thing about the Trek shows is that it's rare that our regulars are the problem. They can only work with what they're given, but when you give them the right thing, you discover just how impressive they really are.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I'm afraid.